the best breakup movie ever has to be Forgetting Sarah Marshall. There is a scene in this movie where the lead guy is trying to learn how to surf, and the surf instructor is like, pop up, pop up. And he's trying, and then the surf instructor is like, you're trying too hard, do less, do less. And he keeps popping up, and they keep doing it, and the guy's getting more and more excited, and he's like, do less, you're doing too much. That's one of my favorite movies of all time because I can hashtag relate to it. And I think last year for me, the theme of you're trying too hard came up a lot. It came up in relationships, it came up in my business, it came up in tennis. And I just kept hearing this over and over again. I'm like, what the heck? How can you actually try too hard? But it was true because, especially with like tennis, let me use that as an example. I had gotten a lesson from a friend and he just said, you need to chill out. Like, I am so ramped up and I'm like, I'm going to get that ball. And I was so hyped and excited and woundly, like tied up, wound up so tightly that I was just not graceful and calm and relaxed with what I was doing. And so I was kind of my own worst enemy. And so I definitely learned how to do less in a graceful way, in a helpful way, in a way that served me. Like over the years, like you, I've learned many things. I've learned how to walk, learned how to speak English. I learned how to drive a standard. That was quite the accomplishment, from going from never knowing anything about cars or how to drive to driving a standard in New West where there's hills everywhere. And then taking my test. I always thought when I went for my L test, my learner's test, and after I got it, I thought, if I can do that, I can do anything, because that was so stressful. I always remember that. I'm like, I can do anything, because I got my driver's license the first try driving a standard. I learned how to use chopsticks. I learned how to surf, how to play tennis. One of the things I'm learning is Spanish. Why is it so hard for me to learn Spanish? This memory came up on Facebook from 7 years ago about me doing all the things. Here's how I'm learning Spanish. I'm all in. And then 7 years later, I'm still not fluent in Spanish. And I feel like I only know as much as I did 7 years ago. So it's frustrating. And why haven't I become fluent in Spanish yet? Because it's hard. It's hard to do. And I like to be successful at what I do. And so if I'm not successful, I'm less inclined to do more of it. That's like the fixed and growth mindset, and I'll get into that in a bit. But it's definitely like, this is hard. I don't know if you listen to the Huberman podcast, but he talks about one of the and he's all science-based. So if you love science stuff, check him out. But when he was talking about one of the biggest things that he learned, and I'll save you all the technical jargon because I'm just going to break it down for you and make it super simple. There's a part of the brain that you can grow the most, and it's the most important one for longevity, meaning like staying at the top of your game and keeping all of your cognitive skills for as long as possible. And what it's all about is a certain part of the brain that grows when you do things that are really hard and when you finish stuff, when you follow through and finish stuff. So quite often we'll start something and it's hard and we're not good at it, and so we stop because it's hard. But what he's suggesting is that your brain, that when that part of your brain grows from doing things that you're not good at and pushing through it and doing it when it's like, I really don't want to study Spanish anymore because it's so hard, then that's when your brain will grow the most and it will benefit you the most from doing hard things and sticking with it and following through and finishing it right to the end. So that makes me want to study Spanish even more, because my son is also studying Spanish, and it's inspiring to listen to him because he's like, oh my God, this is getting so good. I love doing it because I'm getting better at it. So he's focusing on how he's improving as opposed to how hard it is or the stuff he doesn't know. I was doing my homework last night and I go in and out of knowingness. At some points, I'm like in my Spanish brain and I'm like, oh, I get it. Look at me. I'm like no wheels. I'm riding my bike. It's like, oh, I understand what's happening. And then other moments, my Spanish brain completely turns off and I feel like, have I never like paid attention in any of my classes or any of my Duolingo lessons? So that's the frustrating part. But if I have a growth mindset, it's not a problem. And I'm going to tell you why and how. So you can do the hard things, and the more hard things that you do, the better it is for your brain health and your longevity, your cycle of life, like living a long, healthy brain life as opposed to a slow decline later in life. And that's what we want. We want to be at the top of our game until the day we go. Are you with me on this? Because we want to live a big, full life. We want to square the curve. Squaring the curve means that right now, when people get older, they live this unhealthy life and they have this slow decline of health. And so the last part of their life is barely living. They can't do anything. They're in an old age home or anything like that. So you're just surviving. You're not living. So what my desire is for me and anyone that comes and works with me is to square the curve. Like you're living large and you're doing great. And then boop, you just die from, living an awesome life, but there's no struggle. There's no suffering. There's no, just, rotting. That's what my kids call it, rotting. When we're not using our brain and we're not being productive, they call it rotting. And that's what that is. It's just rotting. And so we want to square the curve. We want to live a full, hard, big, fabulous life until it's over, and then we're good to go. So let me use losing weight as an example. When you go to lose weight, like this is what I help my clients with. And we give them a protocol. So by the time I'm done with them, they have a protocol of exactly what they need to eat, what they get to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, how to make it easy for you to do all of these things. Like they have all the answers. But yet people find that sometimes they can't stick to it. They can't lose the weight. Why is this? They know how to do. They know exactly what to do because I've told them, and it's for them specifically because it's not like a one size fits all. So why can't you do something? And it always comes down to self-worth. So when I coach people, I also coach the mindset because you can't just do the actions because the actions come from your thoughts. So we definitely, when we're trying to reach a goal, we get to work on the mindset. And as a life coach, I don't want to dwell on the past, but I want to invent and create the future for you. So when we look at why this is happening, we can safely say without a doubt that it's always about self-worth. So we never have to look for that and go, why are you doing this? Because it's always about self-worth, whether it's something I'm helping you with or it's something I'm working on myself, it's always about self-worth. So we know that that's the root cause. So we don't need to spend time figuring out why it's happening because self-worth is always the root cause. I'm not deserving. I'm not good enough. No, I can't have all of this awesome stuff. No, I feel guilty if I have everything. What about other people? That kind of thinking. So without having to go into the root of all of it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we don't want to live in the past. We want to let our past be what it is, learn from it, and then leave it in the past, and then create this moment from this moment right here. But what does matter is how do we change it? So there's 3 things that you want to do to be able to break through the sabotage, break through the repeating the old patterns, break through being stuck, and then finally create that version of yourself. Create something that you have always wanted to do. Or I always like to say, become that self-actualized version of you. Like in your brain, your goal is like, I want to be like this. I want to be this person. That's your self-actualized version of you. And so in order to do that, you got to not do what you've been doing and create something new, do new actions to create something new. So the first thing is you want to, when you're thinking about these things like, I can't do this, I don't have enough money, I can't lose the weight. So we'll stick with the weight loss example because it's such an easy one to talk about. So it's like, I can't lose the weight. No matter what happens, then I always end up back where I am. So what you want to start with is the word, you want to add in the word yet. Because yet indicates that there's more to come and you're going to learn how to do it. It might seem like a small, insignificant word, but it does create the possibility of what's coming, what's yet to come. And this is where the growth mindset comes in. Meaning, when we have the growth mindset, we can fail and not think of it as a failure, but think of it as the next step to getting to where we want to go, because we're learning. This didn't work. Now we know it doesn't work. Let's try something different. And that's why the growth mindset will get you where you want to go. And the fixed mindset will be like, oh, I failed at this, so I'm just going to stop. And that's when that part of the brain that I was talking about earlier grows. It's like, oh, I want to stop, but I'm going to push through it. I'm going to go into that really uncomfortable feeling and I'm going to do it anyway and I'm going to complete it. And that's where I'm at with Spanish, is like, this feels, when I was doing my homework last night, I felt like I had never learned a Spanish word before in my life because we're conjugating future tense. And I'm like, and there's irregular verbs. And I'm like, damn you irregular verbs. Like, you totally undermine my confidence just when I'm like, hey, I got it. Oh, and then all of a sudden irregular verbs come along and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But if I think yet, I don't know what I'm doing yet, and then I stick to the philosophy of what my son is thinking, is like, oh my God, this is so fun because I'm learning and it's starting to fall into place. And now I'm starting to think with my Spanish brain. And that's where I like to get to with that excitement. So if I lead with that excitement and the thought of yet, like, I'm going to get there, I'm going to be fluent, then that helps me, that encourages me, that motivates me to keep going. That's the beautiful part of it. So that's the step number one, is you want to have the growth mindset and you want to use the word yet. Okay, I haven't figured out how to lose weight and keep it off yet, but that's not a problem because I'm learning. And all the other ways that I tried, I know don't work for me. So I want a philosophy that works for me, and it can't be about willpower because you have a limited amount of willpower. I'm going off track, but I have to tell you, it's not about willpower. And we always want to acknowledge our hunger cues because this is like evolution. This is how it's designed to keep us alive. So our hunger cues are valid. So those aren't the problem. We want to eat lots of food. It's just the foods that we're eating. Okay, I could totally, my passion is like healing your body and living like the best life, eating tons of food and never being in lack or struggle when it comes to food, but abundance and nourishing your cells. So anyway, let's stay focused here, London. Number 2 is you want to do a pattern interrupt, which means we have this pattern. It's this thing that we do over and over and over again. And the only way that we're going to break a pattern is if we actually know, if we have the awareness that a pattern is running. So a pattern is something like a habit, like that we do over and over and over again. And so that we don't even have to think about it anymore because we've done it so many times, like brushing your teeth. You never have to think about brushing your teeth because you've done it so many times. Driving to work, you probably don't even think about how to drive to work. You're just like, oh, damn, I'm at work. How did I get here? I don't even remember driving here. So we want to interrupt the patterns that are telling us to do the same old thing about our eating. It's like the pattern is, I feel an emotion, like I'm frustrated because I'm not losing weight. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go eat some chocolate. And that logically doesn't make any sense, but the drive, the biological drive is there. But in order to break that, we have to first realize that there's a pattern that needs to be broken. So we have the pattern interrupt. So we're like, here I go doing my sabotage. Boom, I throw up a pattern interrupt, which means I do something I wouldn't normally do to shake me out of the unconscious state of just doing something without thinking, like brushing my teeth. And then I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a pattern interrupt. And if you look on my website, there's a ton of information and videos on how to interrupt patterns. So, or when you come and work with me, this is what I teach my clients, how to do pattern interrupts. And that's the first step. So now you're aware. Now you've interrupted the pattern. Now you can create a new pattern. So first you have to know that this is a pattern going on. So it's awareness. And then you have to stop the pattern interrupt, and then you want to create something new instead. So those are the easy steps that you can do to create a new pattern, to learn something new, to stop doing what you were doing that you didn't want to do and start doing something that you do want to do to get you where you want to go, get you the result that you do want. So when it comes to weight loss, it's like, oh, I'm going to eat junk. Okay, that's what I don't want to be doing. There's an awareness. There's my pattern. There's my habit that's keeping me overweight, emotionally eating. Got it. I throw up a pattern interrupt. So I shake up my brain. I kind of startle myself into like, whoa, okay, now I'm out of that pattern, right? Like I shake myself out of it. Not literally, but I interrupt it like with something that I don't normally do. And then I create the new pattern. And then the third one is, you want to surrender. And this is hard. Trust me. It was really hard for me to surrender. So let go of whatever you're holding on to. So if you keep repeating the pattern, it's because, okay, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know about manifesting and creating what you want through your thoughts and vibrating at the same frequency of what you want to achieve. So we're all energy, and if we're at low vibrational thoughts like, oh, I'm not worthy of having this, then we attract more of that, right? And if we want to get somewhere, we want to raise that vibration, love, hope, gratitude. Gratitude is the highest vibration. So we want to raise our vibration. And we're like going to draw this to us because we're going to stay in that vibration all the time. So when we're raising our vibration, at first we'll raise our vibration, and then like a minute later, we'll forget and we'll go off and see something shiny and do that. So we have to keep raising that vibration over and over and over again. And then we'll just be at that vibration. When we've done it enough times, like building a muscle, when we've done it enough times, we've got a big muscle. Now we're at that vibration all the time. So we want to stay at that vibration. But if we're not attracting what we want, it's because we're repelling it for some reason. For some reason, we're saying, no, we're not worthy. Like that's self-worth. This is where it comes back in again, right? So even though you're at that frequency, there's the underlying frequency that we're not aware of. So if it's not happening, like if we raise our vibration and we're still not getting what we want, it's because there's a belief deep in your subconscious that's still running the show. And it's in our subconscious, so we can't see it. We're not aware of it. We've been doing it our whole lives. A lot of the times, this is where the influence of our parents, our teachers, like the people that we spent the most time with when we were growing up, this is where this came in. This is their beliefs. And we don't realize that we've taken them on as ours, but they're not our beliefs. So we need to let them go and create new ones. So we want to find out what's happening deep in that subconscious that's still running the show. And it's serving you for some reason. For some reason, it's serving you to hold on to this so that you can't lose the weight and be like your fabulous self in your body. Why is that? Like our unconscious, our body is brilliant. It just knows how to do all these things. So somewhere deep inside, it's serving you to believe this, or you would have been able to let it go. So you want to ask yourself these really great questions, because remember, the quality of life we live is dictated by the quality of questions we ask ourselves. That's a really good one. That one you want to write down. The quality of life we live is dictated by the quality of questions we ask ourselves. So some really great questions are, how is this serving me? When I hold on to this and I keep myself stuck and I keep myself with extra weight on and not loving myself, not feeling good in my body, what am I getting out of it? And so the other question is, what are you getting from it? How is it serving you, and what are you getting from it? Because you're getting something from it. But when I ask you this, you're going to be like, no, Heather, nothing. It's not serving me in any way to hold on to this extra weight and be overweight and not be loving my body. I'm like, well, let's look deeper. Like, let's question it even more, because I know it to be true, because you're holding on to it and you're not achieving what you want. And your results tell me everything. And if you had the results you were looking for, then you'd be able to let it go. So the $1 million question is, how is it serving you? What are you getting from it? and then find a different way to get that, or allow that not to be gotten from this. Let go of that. This is your job, just to let that go. Surrender to it, because this is what's repelling your big dreams. This is what's not vibrating at the same level. This is what's keeping you from reaching your big, huge, scary goals. This is what's stopping you from becoming that self-actualized version of yourself. So surrender to it and let it go. Just let it go. So, for example, if you want to lose weight and you know exactly what to do to lose it, but you can't do it, ask yourself, like, how is it serving me to stay overweight? Like, how is it serving me to have this extra weight on my body? What am I getting out of being overweight? Is it to keep you safe? Is it to keep you small, unseen? Is it to keep you numb so you don't feel? What are you getting out of it? This is where you want to spend all of your time, answering this question, because doing another diet won't work. You don't need a diet. When you do calorie density, you can have as much food as you want and you'll never gain weight. You'll lose weight. You'll be at a nice, healthy weight. So ask yourself this question and keep digging. Keep asking. Keep being curious until you come up with an answer and you can surrender. Because when you're aware of it, when you see it, in this, because remember, it's subconscious. We're not aware of it. We're not seeing it. Like brushing your teeth. I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm just doing it. So when you're aware of it, when you can see it, when you've brought it into your consciousness, then you can let it go. So consider this your invitation to surrender so that you can fly free. Thank you for listening. Always, always, always love yourself first and have an amazing day.